Hello everyone. Today we are going to study chapter 3 in the earliest cities. So we learnt about the Stone Age. After Stone Age, the people learned the use of the metals. So after learning about the metals, humans' lifestyle have gradually changed. So copper and bronze was the metal discovered and used by the men. So copper was the first metal to be used by man. The earliest cities in the Indian or South Asian subcontinent emerged around 4700 years ago in the region of the river Indus in the northwest direction. Okay, nearly 150 years ago, that is around uh, 1860s, when the British were ruling India, they started to build the railway lanes in the present uh, present day Pakistan, a place named Punjab. Okay, so they discovered a mound while building these railway lines. So they found that as a rich source of ready-made and high quality bricks. So what the British did, they used all the bricks from that site to make the railway lanes, because they found it as a high quality and rich resource and ready-made high quality bricks. So they destroyed all these remains from the Harappan cities and took away all the bricks. So this destroyed many of the buildings from the Harappan civilization, which were the old buildings of the old city of Harappa. Now let us know the story of the Harappa civilization. About 80 years ago, that is somewhere around 1920s, archaeologists found the site and realized that that was one of the oldest cities in the subcontinent. So as this city was the first to be discovered, all other cities or similar buildings were found and were described as Harappan cities. These cities were developed about 4700 years ago. That is, we also studied that development of cities started on the banks of river Indus 4700 years ago. We read this in the chapter 1, so we can connect it to this, right? So the oldest city was discovered and was described as Harappa. This was called Harappan civilization and also called Indus Valley civilization. So why it was called Indus Valley civilization? Because all the cities which were discovered were believed that its spread was limited only to the valley of river Indus. But later on they found that not only the Harappan cities were on Indus Valley region, it also spread more wide. So they gave the name Harappan civilization. So now let us learn about the cities of the Harappan civilization, how they were built, how they were divided. We can learn all these from the Harappan city. So the city was divided into two parts, that is the west part and the east part. The west part was smaller but in a higher ground, so they were called citadel, and the eastern part, which was larger but lower, and was called as lower town. The citadel consisted of large structures which functioned as administrative buildings where upper class people also lived. So upper class people refers to the people who planned the construction of the city, or who were called the rulers. So they were the people who lived in the citadel. Apart from the large and administrative buildings, the houses of upper class people was also in the citadel. Lower town consisted of housing for people where lower class people used to live. Lower class refers to the people who were workers, who were the craftsmen, so who knew the technique of writing, who knew the scripting, and who used to make the beads and toys of terracotta, etc. So those people were considered as the lower class people who used to live in the lower part of the town. So the buildings of this city was made from baked bricks of good quality. The buildings uh, of the city was made from the baked bricks of good quality. The bricks were laid in an interlocking pattern so that the walls can be strong. And some special buildings were constructed in the citadel. For example, the Great Bath, or the public bath, which was known as the Great Bath, was in the citadel in the city of Mohenjo-daro. So we can see in this picture the west part, which is smaller but in a high grounds. That area is called citadel, and the area to the part of the east and lower grounds, they are called the lower town. Now we will know the some of the cities of Indus Valley or Harappan civilization. Harappa, which is located here on the river bank of river Ravi, which is a tributary river of river Indus. Next, Mohenjo-daro, which is over here. Which we can find on the river banks of river Indus. Next is Kalibangan, which we can also locate in this map somewhere near river Satluj, which is also a tributary river of river Indus. Lothal, here. Dholavira, present Gujarat, and many more cities. Now we will know about the houses, the street, and the drainage systems of the Harappan cities. Houses were either 1 or 2 stories high, made of stones and baked bricks. So the houses looked somewhat like this. You can see in the picture, the houses looked like this. So the drainage systems were so sophisticated, and they had the underground drainage system. The drains from the houses were connected to the small drains which were from the streets. Those led to the big soak pits. Then the drains were covered. Inspection holes were provided at intervals to clean them. Okay, so the drains were bigger, making it easier for the cleaning, and they were covered by the stone slabs so that they remove it while cleaning. Okay. All the drains had gentle slopes so that the water can flow easily through it. So these are some of the pictures of the drainage system from the Harappan cities. Now let us know how was the life of people in the city of Harappa. So Harappan city was a very busy place. Okay, so there were people who planned the construction of special buildings in the city that was built in the citadel or the fortress. So the place, this citadel had the important buildings, and there were also the people who prepared seals and other materials and knew how to write, and other craftsperson or the specialists who make all kind of things like toys, statues, seals, etc. So these people were considered as lower class or common people who lived in the lower town. So all the common people used to live in the lower town. These people, the people from the lower town or the craftspersons, those people had to travel to get metals and precious stones and all the raw materials which they needed to make to make the processed goods such as beads, weapons, tools, etc. Okay. So now let us know about the crafts of this civilization. So archaeologists have found things made of stone, shell, and metals such as copper, bronze, gold, and silver. Ornaments were made out of gold, silver, and terracotta. Seals were made from stones, and ornaments were made from gold, silver, terracotta, and faience. And archaeologists also found some beautifully painted pots and toys made from terracotta. Faience is a material artificially produced, unlike the naturally found stone or shell. A gum was used to shape the sand or powder quartz into an object. Later, the objects were glazed, which results in shiny and glassy surface. Okay, the color of the the color of the glaze were usually blue or sea green. So faience was used to make ornaments such as bangles, earrings, and beads for the ornaments. Okay, so beads were made out of faience and redstone. The stones was cut and shaped and polished, and then a hole was bored through the center so that a string could be passed through it, and a chain or necklace can be made out of the faience material or the precious stones. So they also found a embroidered archaeologists also found a embroidered cloth. So cotton was probably grown near in the Mehergarh region around 7,000 years ago. So some of the cloth pieces were found attached to the silver vase and some copper objects at Mohenjodaro City. Archaeologists also found spindle wheels which were used to spin the thread. So by this we can know that they were wearing embroidered garments and clothes, and they used different materials for the clothing. So the ornaments found was like this. We can see in the picture ornaments made from gold, silver, terracotta, faience, and other precious stones. So many of these things were produced by specialists. So a specialist is a person who is trained to do a kind of job like cutting the stone, polishing the beads, or carving the seals. Okay, so they must have been expert craftsperson to do such a wonderful work of these ornaments and statues. So we can see some of the seals in this picture. It looked like this. So these were the seals of Harappan civilization which were found by the archaeologists. So archaeologists also found some of the Indus Valley civilization seals in the from the region of Mesopotamia civilization, and some of the Indus Valley civilization seals were found in the Mesopotamian civilization, and the seals from the Mesopotamian civilization were found in the Indus Valley civilization region. So this shows that trade was trade existed between the Mesopotamian civilization region and the Indus Valley civilization region. Okay. So what are seals and sealings? So seals were used on the as stamp on the bags or packets containing the goods that were sent from one place to another place. Okay, so after the bags or packets were closed or tied, a layer of wet clay was applied and the seal was pressed on it. The impression of the seal is known as the sealing. Okay, if the sealing is intact, one could be sure that the goods have arrived safely. So even today, we can find on the packages or bags which are sealed as uh, we consider it that as it has safely arrived, and no one has opened the packet or bag and checked it or something. Okay, so it ensures that the goods are safely arrived. So we can see some of the terracotta or clay toys made during the Harappan civilization. These were the pots of the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization, which were designed by so the pots had the black designs mostly of animals, and even in the seals we can notice only we can only see the animal carvings on these ceilings, right? See, this is an we can take this as an elephant, this is a wild antelope, this is a wild ox. So all were mostly seals were animal carvings. So now let us know about the trade during the Harappan civilization. So raw materials or substances such as copper, tin, gold, silver and other precious stones were brought from distant places to produce the finished goods. So raw materials such as wood or of metals were produced by the farmers or the herders. Then these raw materials were processed to produce the finished goods. For example, cotton, which were produced by farmers, is a raw material that may be processed to make a cloth, while some of the raw materials that Harappans used were locally available, uh, and some had to be brought from the distant places. So the Harappans probably got the copper from present day Rajasthan and Oman from the West Asia, and tin is a material which was mixed, which so tin is a material which was mixed with the copper to produce bronze and other material which was brought from the present day Afghanistan and Iran. Gold was brought from the present day Karnataka, and other precious stones were from the present day Gujarat, Iran and Afghanistan. So gold from Karnataka, other precious stones from Gujarat, Afghanistan, tin, copper and bronze from Afghanistan, copper from Rajasthan and Oman. So they used to travel to different places for trade purposes and to bring the raw materials to produce the finished goods. Now, let us know about the food and agriculture from the people of the Harappan cities. So, while the people in the cities started making toys, beads, and other finished goods, the people who lived outside outside the cities, that is the countryside, those people grow crops and reared animals. So these farmers who lived in the countryside, farmers and herders, supplied the food to the craftspersons and the scribes and the rulers in the citadel and the lower town. So the people from the countryside supplied the food to the people in the citadel and the lower town. So they grew crops such as wheat, barley, pulses, sesame, and mustard, etc. So they used a new tool called plough, which was used to dig the earth for turning the soil and planting the seeds. So while the real ploughs were made of wood, they were destroyed. So we can see the toy model of the plough. And this region did not receive much of rainfall, so they have used some form of irrigation where the water was stored and supplied to the fields when the plants were growing. The Harappans also reared cattle, sheep, goat, and buffalo. During the dry seasons, they took the large herd of animals to greater distances in search of grass and water. They also collected fruits, nuts, etc., and also hunted animals like antelope. Okay, so this was the agriculture and food of Harappan cities. Now, let us know more about the Harappan city called Mohenjo-daro. So, Mohenjo-daro is a city of Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization, which was found in the region of Sindh of present Pakistan. So, a special tank called the Great Bath was built in this city. This area was lined with bricks coated with plaster and made watertight with a layer of natural tar. So there were steps leading down to it from where from the two sides, while there were also rooms surrounding the great bath. Water was brought in and drained out after the use. So people took a dip in this tank on. It is believed that people took a dip in this tank or the great bath on the special occasions. So this was built in the citadel part of the city. So, Mohenjo-daro city also had a great granary. So, it is a place where all the raw materials and the storage of food is done. So this is a picture of the Great Path. We can see it has steps from two sides and rooms surrounded near the Great Path. Now let us know about the city of Dholavira. So Dholavira was located on Khadir Bait in the run of Kutch in Gujarat. It had fertile soil with fresh water, unlike the other cities of the Harappa. Okay, so the city of Dholavira was divided into three parts, unlike the other cities. So the other cities of the Harappan civilization were divided only into two parts, that is the citadel and the lower town. But in the city of Dholavira, it is divided into three parts, that is citadel, middle town and the lower town. So each part of the cities in the Dholavira was surrounded by massive sandstone and limestone walls which had the entrances through gateways. So the city of Dholavira also had two open grounds, which was one was used for public ceremonies and other festivities, and the other open ground area as a market place. So other finds which were found by the archaeologists were the large letters of the Harappan scripts that were carved out of white stone and laid in wood. So this is a unique finding of Harappan writing other than the writings found on the small seals. Okay. The writings were only found on the seals of the this civilization, but they also found some scripts in the letters in the Harappan script which is not yet deciphered. So this period of time, or this period of Indus Valley civilization, comes under the proto-history period. So proto-history is a period between prehistory and history where some written records were found but were not deciphered. So this writings or this period comes under the proto-history period. Now let us know about the city of the Lothal. So the city of Lothal was beside the right tributary of the Sabarmati river in the Gujarat, close to the Gulf of Kambhat. It was situated near the places where raw materials such as precious stones were easily available. So this city of Lothal was an important center for making the objects from shell, stone and metals. So archaeologists also found storehouses in the city of Lothal where they used to store the seal and sealings, and they also found buildings which were probably the workshops or the factory sites for making beads and toys. So the city of Lothal also had a dockyard. So this historians assume that this dockyard was used as a this dockyard was used where boats and ships came in from the seas and through the river channel. So goods were probably loaded and unloaded here for the trading purposes. Now let us know about how the Indus Valley civilization or the Harappan civilization came to an end. So this is still, even today, it's a mystery how the Harappan civilization came to an end. So around 3900 years ago, archaeologists found the beginning of a major change. That is, people stopped living in many of these cities. Writing, seals, and weights were no longer used. Raw materials brought from the distant regions became rare, and the archaeologists found piled up garbage on the streets of the piled up garbages on the streets, and the drainage system broke down, and the buildings were destroyed in the city of Mohenjo-daro. So even the historians and archaeologists are not sure why it why the cities came to an end, why the Indus Valley civilization came to an end. So the historians and archaeologists suggest some of the reasons for the end of the civilization. So those reasons were deforestation. That is, uh, this could have happened because they used to make the baked fuels, and baked bricks were made using the fuels, and the smelting of copper ores, and so grazing of, they also continued herding and rearing of animals, right? So grazing of large herds of cattle and sheep may have destroyed the grasslands and led to deforestation. And the other reason was natural disasters such as flood, drought, and other major changes in the migration of people to other settlements to the east and the south, and change of the course of river Indus and its tributaries, or rivers drying up, would have also had some effect, but only in some areas. Some historians also suggest that the rulers or the administrative people of the Harappan cities lost control, and some kind of massacre has happened, and the cities were abandoned. So the end of the Harappan civilization is still a mystery even today. So the archaeologists and the historians are trying to find out the proper reason for the end of the Indus Valley civilization. After this, new cities emerged about 1400 years later, that is somewhere around 621 BC. We will learn about that in the chapter 5. So now let us uh, recall about the Indus Valley civilization. So the Indus Valley civilization was a vast civilization in the northwest part of India, which was discovered in 1920s. So the archaeologists found out about the civilization in the 1920s. That is after the British ruined the uh, some of the buildings of the Harappan cities in 1860s. After 70 years, we got to know about the Harappan civilization or the Harappan cities. So the Indus Valley civilization was essentially a riverine civilization. That is, most of the settlements were situated on the banks of river Indus and Saraswati. So this Indus Valley civilization comes under the proto-historic period. About 1400 settlements of the Harappan culture are known from the different parts of India. So, about 925 settlement sites are now in India and 475 are in the present Pakistan. So, the total geographical stretch of the Harappan civilization is large, that is 20 times the area of Egyptian and more than 12 times of the combined area of Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilizations. We know that Indus Valley civilization, Egyptian civilization, and Mesopotamian civilization are the earliest civilizations of the world. Most of the Harappan settlements were located on the banks of rivers of Indus and its tributaries, and most of the settlements were located on the vast plain between the Indus and the Ganga, mainly comprising of the Saraswati river, which is now does not exist. The Saraswati river does not exist. So there are number of locations which were near the settlements of river Saraswati were located in Gujarat. There are so many cities which comes under the Indus Valley civilization. Some of them are Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Kalibangan, Dholavira, Lothal, Surkotada, uh, Chanhudaro of Sindh, and Banawali in Haryana, and many more. So there are so many important cities of the Harappan civilization. So in Mohenjodaro city, there was a special tank which was called the Great Bath, and it also had a great granary. And some cities like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and Lothal also had a elaborate storehouses. And in other cities such as Kalibangan and Lothal had fire altars where sacrifices may have been performed. The Harappan culture was spread over Afghanistan, Sindh, Jammu, Baluchistan, northern Rajasthan, and almost the whole of Punjab, Kathiawar, and Gujarat. So, the archaeologists have found a set of unique objects in all these cities of Harappan, such as red pottery painted with black designs, stone weights, seals, special beads, copper tools, and stone blades. Also, they we got to know that hunters and gatherers turned into farmers and herders and started the development of agriculture. So we can find that in these cities. So the Harappan people were also doing farming, farming and herding, and they started pottery and craft and making toys and beads, and they also continued hunting and gathering also during the dry seasons. And the town planning is a unique feature of this Indus Valley civilization. So they had a unique town planning and developed life. So the Indus Valley civilization people were the first to build the planned cities with the sophisticated drainage system. So this city was provided with an excellent closed drainage system, which is underground drainage system. So each house had its own drainage, which connected to the small street drainages leading to the soak pit, which was connected to the public drainage. So they were covered using the stone slabs, and at times they used to open the stone slabs for cleaning purposes. After all these, suddenly the Indus Valley civilization came to an end, and the reason even today is unknown, but some historians and archaeologists analyzed and gave some of the reasons, which were deforestation and natural disasters such as floods and droughts, and due to climatic changes and migration of people to other settlements, and change in the course of the river Indus and its tributaries. So this is how the people, the early people, that is the hunters and gatherers, now have had become civilized people and lived a sophisticated and luxurious life. Now let us know some of the important dates. So cotton cultivation at Mehergarh started about 7,000 years ago. The beginning of the cities, or the development of the cities, started about 4,700 years ago. So this Indus Valley civilization is was also started 4,700 years ago. So the beginning of the end of the cities, the or the beginning of the end of the cities of the Indus Valley civilization started about 3,900 years ago, and the Indus Valley civilization started and ended, the period was 3300 BC to 1300 BC. The Indus Valley civilization was divided into three parts: early Harappan civilization, mature Harappan civilization, and late Harappan civilization. So we learnt how people lived in the city of Harappan civilization, what they uh, what they did, what was the occupations followed by the people in during the Indus Valley civilization, and what was the type of food they consumed, what type of clothes they wore, etc. So what type of buildings they built, in what type of houses they used to live. We learnt about all these. So this is the end of the chapter in the earliest cities. Thank you, everyone.